Hey, Southeast Missouri sports fans. Enjoy the show and want to take it on the go? You can find every episode on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or YouTube. Tune in as they air by searching SEMO Sports Zone wherever you may be listening. Welcome to the SEMO Sports Zone presented by A-Corp Sports. David, week 4 is over. Thoughts on it?
Like video games, a lot of video game numbers this week. I think everybody's been playing the college football video game and kind of taking that to the field.
If I thought last week was lopsided, this week is just, that's going off a cliff.
Yeah, a lot of high scoring, a lot of big yardage games, and just there were a few close games, but not a lot. And just we have a lot of teams that were just putting some points up in a hurry.
Yeah, I think for most teams that are scoring this high too, you're kind of, as a fan of those teams, you're happy about it, mostly because you're winning games. But at the same time, you kind of get to reach into your bag a little bit, see what you got to work with, and just kind of experiment at that point.
Yeah, and you get those big leads. We saw that at the game we were at, and hey, that's part of getting better. And other teams, they're just trying to find their way and just trying to figure some things out. So it's just haves and have-nots, I think, at this point.
Absolutely. Well, let's get on to one of those teams that I think are still trying to figure themselves out. Porterville at Scott City, 22-28.
Yeah, this was actually a pretty decent game. Porterville, I thought, played well. Scott City just had a little bit more. Scott City, they're very, I don't know how to figure them out. They're very inconsistent. They were that way last year as well.
I'm thinking that's kind of the consensus in the town too, because I think they're expecting to win these games by a lot more than they are. Mm-hmm. I mean, happy enough that you're winning the game, but at the same time, you want to ramp up that score another 14 points.
Yeah, and they're just not real consistent. Underwood, he's somebody who's very consistent. He gets a big game, has a big game every week, and I think he had like 215 yards. Gloth, he had a good game, 202 all-purpose yards. I mean, those two, every week,
great numbers,
put up numbers. But for some reason, it just doesn't. They're not winning games the way we thought that they would win games. They lost to Kelly. That was kind of a surprise. I just don't week 4, I just don't know what to make of that team.
Yeah, and that's not really a place you want to be in right now. You kind of want to be like, and for a lot of these teams, it's where they're at. And you know pretty much where they're going. For Scott City, I mean, you do have the benefit of like, all right, we're kind of in a mystery bag situation. Either we're really good or just decent. And, moving further into the season, I mean, you want to clean that up, but also you're not losing these games.
Right. Yeah. They're winning and they're finding a way to win. And that's the big thing. You're 3-1 after 4 games. I think that they would be happy with that. Same time, you're in a tougher district this year. You're in Class 3. So I'm like, I think you need to be playing a little bit better, as you get closer into districts. On the flip side, Portageville, they didn't play last week. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think they're, they've kind of had a tough schedule to start the year, and the game that they should have won which they did by forfeit, but they didn't get to play it.
Right.
And I think that hurt them because, I mean, you want to have a team, you want
your missing reps.
Right. You're missing reps, but you want to have some success. And, they've got some good players. I think Porterville is going to be okay as we go along here. But, that game last week that they missed, I think that's big for them. That would have really helped them to play that game.
Absolutely. And, coming up, they've got to play Charleston. Charleston's, they're kind of rolling in the games that they're winning. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those that you wanted to be prepared for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Porterville can give Charleston a game. I think it'll be a lot like this game. I think that Porterville is going to hang in there with a lot of teams they play. And, and maybe pull some out as we go through the season here. But, I think for them, it's a lot of just getting confidence and, but they're playing well. It's just they just can't make the plays, that they need to pull out a win.
Right. All right. Moving on. We've got Haytai at Father Tolton, 6:59.
Yeah. Father Tolton just, put it on East Prairie last week. They put it on Haytai this week. And it's just one of those, got to fill out a game and they played Father Tolton, and Father Tolton's just taking advantage of the boot hill.
Yeah.
Haytai was just outmatched.
Got a 75-yard touchdown pass. So
yeah, it was late in the game. I think it was, but at the same time, anything positive that you can take from it. And, Hayti will be fine. I mean, they're going to be okay, but they have some injuries and stuff there that they're trying to work through, but they were just kind of outmatched this one. Father Tolton's a good team. I mean, they're a really, really good team, and so it was a tough matchup. And then plus you have to go on the road and play that. That is just a tough ask for Hayti.
Yeah, and did they play this game last year?
I can't remember. I can't remember. I know that I think East Prairie played Father Tolton. I'm not sure that Hayti did, though.
Well, it's one of these things where it makes me wonder, is Father Tolton just much better this year than they were last year? Oh. Is it windshield and fly situation?
Yeah, I would think so. Father Tolton's kind of been, they've had a good program for years, but I think they were, this year's a lot better than they were last year. So, but they're definitely good this year. They're undefeated, and they looked the part.
And, for Hayti, what do you think is what's the next step at this point?
Get healthy. I think that's, number one, you want to get healthy and minimize mistakes and turnovers. In every game they played this year, they've had a lot of turnovers, a lot of penalties. And you just can't win games like that, especially when games are close. And, so you just got to minimize those. And again, like I said, get healthy. And, they're going to have some winnable games coming up here in the next few weeks. But, right now it was just a tough ask for them to go up and play Father Tolton.
Next up, what was supposed to be, I think, your game of the week last week was Jackson Farmington 56-7.
Yeah, it was Jackson came out fired up, and Drew Parsons had 338 yards passing in the first half, 376 for the game. They put up over 660 yards of total offense. They made a
touchdown.
They made a point against Farmington, and I still believe that Farmington is the second best team in the SEMO North. But they definitly made a point.
It's going a little bit of drama.
Yeah. Going against their former coach, I think, there was a lot of intensity there for Jackson, and just completely dismantled them, kind of shocking off from the opening. And, Farmington, I still think they're a really good team. I think they just kind of got caught up in a very motivated Jackson team and a very, very good Jackson team.
Absolutely. I mean, I think Drew Parsons right now, this is an MVP season for him.
Yeah, I would right now, I would assume he's the front runner for the Carr Trophy. I mean, there's nothing he's done wrong yet. I mean, he can run it, he can throw it, makes great decisions, is definitely a team leader there. Just definitely looks the part, and right now I think heads and tails is the favorite to win that Carr Trophy.
And for Farmington, what do you think Farmington can do moving forward to kind of clean up anything that Jackson's rolling, and coming up against that, it's what do you do to correct yourself? But do you think Farmington has any corrections they need to make?
Just forget this game and move on. This is one of those games that you just kind of get whipped and move on. They were the better team. I mean, and we knew they were the better team going in. I thought Farmington's offense would be able to put up a few more points, but again, Jackson's defense is just outstanding all year long. They've been outstanding, and that's been the biggest surprise for me. We always know Jackson has that good offense, but the defense this year is kind of what's surprising me. And Farmington just couldn't really move the ball against them, and I think Farmington's going to be just fine. I think they're the second best team in that SEMO North. I think they've got, they're going to win some games here. And, I think they're a good team. It's just you ran up against a team that's just a lot better.
Yeah. And sometimes that just happens. Next up, I got Donovan at Malden, 50-14.
Yeah, Donovan just put it on them. They were up 15-14 and then scored 3 touchdowns in 3 minutes there at the end of the first half. Putman, I've been raving about him all year. He's just so fast and such a good receiver. I think he had 3 touchdown catches, and their quarterback Alex Jones, he had a great night. He ran for a couple of touchdowns and threw for 3 or 4. And I mean, they've got a very good. I mean, this is probably the best Donovan team I've seen since they kind of rebooted that program several years ago. Then they had to went just JV last year, but this is the best Donovan team I've seen of all those. And I think. They're 2-2. They've got a chance to win this one coming up this week. But they're just a very, very decent football team. And Malden, they were in the game for a while, and this thing snowballed really quickly right there at the end of the first half, and they just never could get back in the game.
I think that's pretty evocative of a lot of games right now. Is that it starts out a little bit competitive, and then it just gets away from you. Which for Malden, I feel like that's kind of been that's just what's happened this year.
Yeah, they hung around against Charleston, and it just kind of snowballed there late. And it's just, once that ball gets rolling down the hill, they just can't get it stopped. And that's I think that's the next step for them is to keep these games closer where they're not snowballing away from them.
Yeah, it's a game of momentum, and you can say that about the game itself, and you can say that about the season. And for Malden, I mean, it's going to be tough to kind of bounce back, and you want to win on the season. That's the goal for Doniphan. 2-2. I mean, you're back even keel, but I think this gives you a lot of momentum going forward.
Yeah. It's I mean, that's just a boost forward, and I mean, they're playing really well. I mean, that offense is really clicking, and their defense isn't bad either. So, I'm very, very. I like what I see with Doniphan. I really do.
Moving on, we've got Kelly at Kennett, 18-26.
Well, this was a good defensive game. I mean, I know you've got 26-18, but several turnovers for both teams. Kennett scored on a block punt. They scored on interception. Then they got a safety in the end zone there late in the game. I mean, a lot of defensive scores. Wasn't a lot of it was kind of Kelly's game. Kind of keep it slower paced.
Mm-hmm.
Run the ball a lot, but their quarterback's playing pretty well. But Kennett just made the plays when they had to and pulled out this win. And they had a really good game plan going in against Kelly and just made some big plays. The biggest play of the game, Jones hit a big pass play to Zane Franklin right there at the end of the first half to put them up 18-12. And I thought that was kind of basically the difference in the game because they pretty much played even the rest of the game.
Do you think for Kelly at this point, the slow tempo game, do you think it's working for them, or do you think they need to start trying to come up with something else to kind of rack up points more?
No, I think it absolutely works for them. I mean, they were able to beat Scott City that way. They're a good football team, and Kennett is a football team who's on who's coming up. They've got a really good coach there. They're much improved from last year. But I like what Kelly does. That's kind of their MO. That's kind of what they've always going to do. They've got you got to cut down on the turnovers because the turnovers when you play that game of that type will beat you. Turnovers,
it becomes crucial at that point.
But you cut them out. I mean, I think that it keeps them in games, and if you can stay in the game to the fourth quarter, then you never know what can happen. And they were in the game late here. They just didn't make the plays to win it. But it was a good game, and I think I like the way Kelly plays. I think that's been their MO for a while now, and Coach Powers, and I certainly don't question what they've done there because he's built a pretty good program.
And for Kennett, what do you think is the biggest takeaway from this game?
Just a win, and I mean you continue to get better and better. I mean, it wasn't pretty, but anytime you can win and it's not pretty, you'll take it. And I think any win Kennett can get right now, I think it just helps on their confidence. They've got a lot of younger players there, so Coach Wyatt, he'll build off this, and he's got a good coaching staff down there. Kennett is where they need to be, and they're on the way up for sure.
Okay. Moving on, we've got Herman at New Madrid County Central, 6-28.
Yeah, New Madrid, I mean, they ran the ball well here. They spread it around. The defense played really well. They had a 100-yard scoop and score, which you don't see every day. They just made the plays when they needed to. Herman was, not the team they were last year, but Malachi Hughes, he had a couple scores for New Madrid. Just a good, well-rounded game. A game I think they needed. So just a good overall win for New Madrid and a good showing for their defense. Their defense had been kind of exposed in the first 3 weeks. The teams would be able to run on them a little bit, and they were kind of shut that down this week. Outside of one drive for Herman, it was a really good night for New Madrid's defense.
Yeah, and a win always looks good for your team. But what do you think New Madrid can take away from this too going forward?
I think some ability on defense to shut down the run. I think that's some confidence in shutting down the run. Some better line play, which I think that they were needing, and I think that'll help them propel them in some of these games coming up that they have a chance to win. They've got it's going to be a tough game coming up with them against Kelly this week. It'll be interesting to see how that works. But I think this is a team that has some big playability, but I think that, they just need to improve defensively, and I think they did that this week.
Yeah, very explosive. I think we kind of expect that from New Madrid in some places, though.
Yeah, they have such speed and such athletes out there, and they did a really nice job of spreading the ball around. They've got a lot of different guys that can touch the ball.
Moving on, we've got Charleston at Ballard Memorial, 40-7.
Yeah, Charleston rolled. Charleston's a good team. They kind of got it handed to them by Potosi, but Potosi's a good team. I mean, they took St. Genevieve down to the wire, lost by 1. and had a chance, maybe should have won that game. And that's a very good Potosi team that they lost to. So, they just hammered this Ballard team. They led 40-0. They really didn't put up a ton of numbers from what I saw, but it was just, they just dominated them. Ballard didn't score till late in the fourth. Just a dominating performance for Charleston.
Yeah, I think Charleston, I mean, I don't know what your list looks like, but I feel like it really succeeds in hitting that like 6 spot for a lot of, like, if you were like comparing that to like the upper echelon of teams in the area, they're always pretty consistent in just being able to beat most teams, but they don't look. Yeah, I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. The consistency of like, can we beat bigger teams? Can we beat smaller teams? They're really good at beating smaller teams.
Well, and that's fine though, because they're Class 1. So really, I mean, that's your main focus anyway, is just take care of these smaller teams and use these bigger teams as somebody to make you better. And this is like I said, this was just a dominating performance from them. They played, pretty well this year. They kind of, played with their food a little bit against Malden, I thought, but then whenever they needed to, they really turned it on. And, I like this Charleston team. I think they have the ability to be really good this year.
Yeah. And I only mention that just because I know they've got a game against Sykeston coming up.
Yeah.
So it's one of those situations where it's like, well, your area teams are all bigger than you. Can you keep up with that?
Yeah. They beat them last year. And I promise you that's a game that Charleston is always motivated for. So we'll see how that plays out later on in the season.
Moving on, we've got, we were at this game, East Prairie at Dexter, 15-50.
Yeah, we were at this one, and Dexter just did what they wanted to early. They were able to work on their passing game. They got that big lead, and then were able to work on their passing game. And Will Geatley made some really nice throws.
Yeah.
They look good doing it. I think he threw for 171 yards, 3 touchdowns. And Turnbow just makes big plays. Every time he touches the ball, he's a threat to make a big play. And Wernick, he's a good receiver, good runner. He's just very athletic as well. I was really impressed with their defense. Their defense gave East Prairie nothing. I know they had 16 points, but those didn't come until the second string was in late in the game. But I would imagine, I don't have the stats in front of me for their defense, but I would imagine that East Prairie probably had negative yards going into that fourth quarter.
Forcing turnovers, everything like that.
Yeah.
Dexter just had everything going for them.
Yeah, dominated the line of scrimmage. Just did what they needed to do and got to work on some things that I think that Coach Jamerson wanted to work on. So it was just one of those, a good game for Dexter, and get them ready for South Boone next week.
Yeah, if you're a Dexter fan, this is a great game for you. If you're a fan of just competitive football, I mean, is what it is. You're watching one team just kind of explore what they need to work on.
Yeah, East Prairie, I mean, they're mostly freshmen on that offensive line. I mean, they're going to get better. It's just one of those years you're just taking your lumps, and you know it. And Coach Penrod, I will say this: they were playing hard. All 4 quarters. They were just playing as hard as they could, and they knew they were outmatched, but they still played hard. They got a couple scores late, and they're going to be just fine. I think that these younger guys, once they develop in the next year or two, they're going to be a tough team. But just this year is just one of those years where when you're a smaller school, you lose a lot of your older guys, and you don't have many upperclassmen. You just have to take your lumps.
Absolutely. And then I think the most competitive, and you wouldn't judge that by the score, but Crothersville at Sykeston 70-42.
Yeah, I mean, that was a video game. It was actually just it was a 2-score game with just about 4 or 5 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. Sykeston had the ball, and Crothersville got a couple of scores late on them. But I mean, the numbers for Sykeston, Pierce Baker, he threw for 385 yards. 3 touchdowns. They had a Holcomb, their running back, ran for 127. But for them, it's the defense. They can score, but your defense, just bad overall run defense in this game. Not a lot of bad tackling. Sammy Bryant, 319 yards rushing, 390 for the game for Crothersville.
Yeah, I mean, you can talk about bad defense from Sykeston, but at the same time, Sammy Bryant,
he's tough to bring down.
He'd be tough for anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, but if you're Sykeston, you've been exposed 3 weeks in a row on your run defense. I mean, Cape Central, Dexter, and now Crothersville. Now those are 3 very good teams. But at the same time, you just have been exposed in your run defense. And Sammy Bryant, man, he put on a show. He is just so tough to bring down, so fast and strong, and he was a huge problem. And Crowsville outscored Sykeston 42-7 in the second half. They were able to make some adjustments there at halftime. And, because Crowsville's defense wasn't great in that first half, but they made some adjustments, kind of took away some things that Sykeston wanted to do in that second half.
Yeah, I think they kind of found the writing that Sykeston was working with. And to quote Matt Tanner during the first half, defense optional.
Yes.
But, afterwards, Sykeston's passing game, it was pretty good for that entire game. But, shut that down a little bit and then, turn the ball over.
Yeah, Sykeston's offense, there's, obviously they scored 42 points. Their offenses look pretty good all year long. And, I've been, praising Pierce Baker all year. I think he's a really good quarterback. It's just that, they just don't have that defensive ability. They're controlled, I think, at the line of scrimmage. And then by the time you get to that second level, they're already gaining, so many yards and they're just not able to stop, other teams' run game. And until they get that cleaned up, they're going to have to win shootouts.
Yeah, and that is a hard position to be in because shootouts are so inconsistent.
Yes, and because the other team makes adjustments too, and they know what you want to do, so it's tough in those shootout situations. But Sykeston's definitely shown the ability that they can score. They play hard. It's just, and I think they're better than last year. I really do. It's just. They're running some teams with some really good running games, and they just are struggling with them. Yeah,
you're running into a bunch of teams that are on the up and up. If not, they've already been there.
Right.
So it's a difficult situation for Sykeston.
Yeah.
All right, Dave's dozen.
All right, I'm really struggling with this week just because there's some teams I just don't. There's 3 or 4 teams I just don't know where to slot them, sure. And it's just tough to. And I'm not happy with where I have them, but at the same time, I'm like I don't know where else to put them. So, sure. But we'll start with number 12, and I've got Hayti. They've had a couple tough losses, and they can definitely rise from that. But I've got them at 12, and then I've got 11 at Saxony because they didn't play. But they're one of the teams I just don't know what to think about them.
Yeah, they didn't lose their quarterback though.
Right, and Hayti has gotten, like I said, has those injuries, but Saxony, the best team they've beaten is Donovan, and we don't really know 100% what Donovan is. They look good this week.
Yeah.
So we'll find out more about Saxony as we go along here, but I just really don't know where to slot them. I'm like,
they also have not played like any area teams, like you said, right. Just Donovan. And moving forward, I don't know what their entire schedule looks like, but next week they're not playing an area team either.
Right, they're playing a team from Alton, Illinois, and a pretty good team. So we'll find out a little bit more about them after that. But I need them to play some local teams so I can know kind of how they stack up. Number 10, I have Kelly. I had to drop them because they, that loss to Kennett, but it was a tough loss. And then at number 9, I've got Scott City, and they're the one that I really just don't know where to slot because, you lost to Kelly. I put you above Kelly, but I don't, I just don't know. I don't know how they, they're just very inconsistent, but I've got them at the 9 spot.
I can see that. I think for Scott City, we talked about it earlier. It's just consistency is key. I was pretty bullish on Scott City heading into the season, and it's not like they don't have weapons. It's just how do you use them?
Yeah, and I just don't know. I don't know what to think of them, and I'm inconsistent ranking them because they seem to be inconsistent week to week. So number 8, I've got Kennett. Got them moving up. It was a good win over Kelly, and I think that's a good slot for them. I think they're a good team. I think they're still a year or two away from being really good, but they're definitely on the up. And then I've got Sykeston sliding to 7. I think they're probably maybe better than some of the teams I've got ranked ahead of them. Maybe we'll see. But you give up 70 points, you can't stay at the spot you were. You've got to slide some. So
I can see that. So
I had to slide them down to number 7. And then at number 6, I've got New Madrid. They've got to win. I don't know. They're another team I'm kind of tough. Don't know. They've played. Honestly, they've played, Dexter and Cape Central, who are obviously ranked above them. And, that's who they've lost to. They kind of struggled against East Prairie, which shocks me. Which what I saw from East Prairie and then what I saw from New Madrid when they played Dexter, I'm shocked that East Prairie was able to do what they did against them. But I've got New Madrid at 6, and at number 5, I've got Charleston.
Really? Yeah. Okay. We talked about Charleston, putting up big point totals. I can see moving up to number 5.
They're 3-1.
It makes sense.
They're 3-1. Their only loss was to a team that Potosi that is pretty good. So I've got them there, and really and again, I say it every week, but that 5 through 10, 5 through 11, you can just put them in a pile and just pick them out. They're tough to rank. And then at 4, I've got Crothersville, and that's a tough call because they're good. And at 3, I've got Dexter, and they're good. You can, pick and choose them. And at 2, I've got Cape Central, and they're good. So all 3 of those teams, Cape Central kind of struggled a little bit against Poplar Bluff, but they always seem to do that. So I don't put a whole lot into that. I still just kind of go, I thought Cape Central was the most dominant against Sykeston, and since Sykeston played all 3 of those teams, and I thought Dexter second, and then Crothersville 4. So that's why I got Cape Central 2, Dexter 3, and Crothersville 4, and Jackson should have a poll all to itself.
We talked about it that, Crothersville and Dexter don't play that game anymore.
Yeah.
I see, as a Dexter guy, I should agree with your list. At the same time, I feel like I'd put Crothersville ahead of them.
And that's fair. And I could definitely see that argument. Again, I would love to see them play. They used to play, and they used to play some great games. Even back in the early 80s, they were playing 7-6 games in state playoff games. And they've always had some really good games. And I would really love to see them play this year because I think that would be a great game. But it's fair. Again, 2, 3, 4, Cape Central, Dexter, Crothersville, I think they're all very similar. You could put Crothersville at 2, and I would be like, I understand, I get it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So. Jackson's Jackson, obviously.
Yeah, they need their own poll. Is there a 0? Can I rank them at 0? They're just heads and tails above everybody on this list.
Listen, if it was basketball, we'd separate it a little bit, but at the same time, we've only got so many teams to rank.
Yeah, we'll just give them their own poll from now on.
All right, upcoming games. Is there any game on the list that you're really just like, that's the game I'm looking forward to?
The Valley Catholic Crothersville game.
That's the first one I've got listed.
Valley lost a lot off last year's team, but they're still the 3rd-ranked team in state in Class 3. So obviously they're still good. They're still rolling teams.
This game happened last year. We kind of expected it to be closer than it was. Crothersville got blown out, but this year, I don't know.
It's hard to argue against history, and Valley just has dominated this game. They dominated it last year. I kind of expect them to dominate it this year, but I'm anxious to see. This is the kind of the game that Crothersville, we'll see how they stack up. This is obviously the best team that they've played. So we'll see how it works. But I think Valley comes down and wins this game, but we'll see. Would it shock me if Crothersville won this game? No, because I think they've got that big playability. Obviously, they showed that scoring 70 on Sykeston, but the defense they're going to be running up against is a lot better than what Sykeston had, and I expect Valley to win this game. But I want to see what kind of game Crothersville brings.
Yeah, I'm going to take Crothersville in it just because Crothersville, I kind of thought they were going to lose a lot more than they did, and I thought reloading was going to be a lot harder. It feels like they really haven't missed a step.
Yeah, I came in at our first show this year. I came in and said I think Crothersville loses maybe one game in the regular season this year, and that's this game. And so, but I'm very, very high on Crothersville. I think they're good, and I think they're going to make a run in Class 2.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, moving on. We got Hayti at St. Vincent.
This one is actually a pretty tough game to me. I'm going to go St. Vincent right now. I think this is a toss up for me. Hayti, depending on if their quarterback plays, if he doesn't, I don't know his status. But it's a tough game. St. Vincent has played some tough teams. They beat a pretty good Perryville team a couple weeks ago, but they took it on the chin to Valley and a couple other games. But I'm going to go St. Vincent here, but I think it's a toss up.
Yeah, well, I think this would be a different matchup let's put Hayti with an asterisk.
Right.
It's like if you're healthy, then I feel like it's a much closer matchup. I'm going to take St. Vincent too, but honestly, if Hayti pulls it out, I would not be shocked by that.
Yeah, I'm not real comfortable with the St. Vincent pick, so much because you just don't know. Hayti has that ability to just those big plays, but St. Vincent plus playing at home, that's another long trip for Hayti. They've had back-to-back long trips. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just leaning St. Vincent, but either way it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, and looking at this season too, I feel like Haty's had a very tough schedule.
Yeah.
And
and that's good because that'll get them ready for districts.
It's good. It's good if
you stay healthy.
If you're healthy.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. We've got New Madrid at Kelly.
Another good game. This one actually could be the best game of the night. We've got the ability to have some good games here. I think I'm leaning Kelly just because I think Kelly's going to be able to run the ball, and New Madrid struggled with teams that can run the ball. And, that offensive line for Kelly, it's very experienced. So I'm going to lean that way. But, again, one that wouldn't shock me if New Madrid was able to pull this one out. They do pose some problems for Kelly with the speed they have on the outside. But I think Kelly gets them into their type game, which is what they do. And I think their offensive line takes over, and I think Kelly pulls this one out.
I think it just all really depends on if Kelly can outscore New Madrid at that point.
Yeah.
And we've seen New Madrid with that explosive offense, just making big game plays like when it really mattered. And if they can do that, I feel like that's how they're going to pull it out against Kelly. At the same time, I need to see Kelly really run up that score a little bit to kind of add that buffer.
Yeah, I look at the East Prairie New Madrid game, and I see how East Prairie was able to run the football. I think Kelly's just going to be able to do that. That's why I'm leaning them. But man, New Madrid, if they can get the ball out to their playmakers, I don't know. Kelly's going to have to figure out a way to stop that.
Should be extremely competitive. Next up, we've got Charleston at Portageville.
I've got Charleston in this one. I think they're kind of rolling right now. But I think it's a game that's a 1 or 2 score game.
I think it's a much more physical game.
Yeah, for sure. I think Portageville is going to hang in there, but I think it's going to kind of be like the Scott City game. I think it's going to be very similar to that, and I think it's going to come down to Charleston making plays at the end. And again, I really like this Charleston team. I think they win this game, but Portageville will give them a game.
Do you think Charleston right now is kind of like a more consistent Scott City?
I do. Like I said, their one loss, it was a big loss, but man, that Potosi team is a lot better than what I think a lot of people thought at the time. And just seeing them play, that Potosi is good. They've got a good running game, and it's they have something that these other teams that Charleston is playing that they don't have. So I like this matchup for Charleston, but I think it's close.
Yeah. All right. I'll stay high on the Blue Jays too. I'll take Charleston. Next up, we've got East Prairie at Kennett.
I like Kennett in this one. I think Kennett continues to win. Again, we've documented these Prairie struggles with their youth, and I think Kennett's able to take advantage of that. And I think Kennett gets a win here.
Yeah, Kennett. I mean, they're building that culture back up. It's a 2-2 season right now, so you're back in fresh for East Prairie. We already know their struggles, so yeah, I'm going to take Kennett as well. Moving on, we got Dexter at Southern Boone.
I like Dexter in this one. Southern Boone's played a tough schedule. I mean, they've lost to they're 1-3, but the 3 teams they've lost to are all getting votes in the state polls. Now they get to play the number 4 team, I think, in the state poll. So it's I mean, I favor Dexter in this one. It's a long drive up there. It's a tough road trip, but I think Dexter's up for the task, and I think Dexter pulls this one out.
I just think about Southern Boone. Apparently, they've lost most of their team that they had last year. So I think about how dynamic that matchup was last year, and how much hype there was behind it, everything like that. And I feel like this is I'm not going to say an easy Dexter win, but it's going to be an easier Dexter win than it was last year.
Yeah, I don't think Southern Boone is what they were last year. New players, new coach, but I still think it'll be one of the tougher games that Dexter's had. It reminds me of kind of what they played against New Madrid, something like that. A 2 or 3 score game.
And then moving on, we've got Jackson at Poplar Bluff.
I think Jackson rolls.
Yeah,
that'll be the weekly thing from here on out when Jackson plays these SEMO North teams. But yeah, I think Jackson's just much better. Poplar Bluff, put up a good showing against Cape Central this week, but just wasn't enough. And I think Jackson's just they're the team there.
Yeah, not much to talk about. And then we've got Marquette Catholic at Saxony Lutheran.
I like Marquette Catholic in this one. They're 3-1. They've got a really good offense. It's really going to test this Saxony defense. Best team that Saxony's played. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, Saxony's had a week to prepare. It'll be at Saxony or SEMO. I'm not sure where they're playing this game at, but it's going to be. I just favor this Marquette Catholic team, and if Saxony wins this game, that says a lot about the Saxony program.
Yeah, well, I think even just playing this game says a lot about Saxony's program. If they're playing teams that are like in this, that are slated to be much better, I think they're prepping is I think the biggest thing. You can talk about the players that Saxony's pulling from. Is you're pulling from that Jackson pool, you're pulling from that Cape Central pool. Can you kind of bleed that in and just make a very competitive team? I think this is the year to start doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, quarterback is a sophomore who's going to be just, I think, unreal by the time he's a senior. I think in 2 years' time, this Saxony team is going to be one that we're talking about as one of the better teams in the area. So yeah, I think you're right on all points there, and I'm anxious to see how they match up against this Marquette Catholic team.
And then next up, we've got Farmington at Sykeston.
I think Farmington wins this one pretty big. You know, Sykeston's struggles defensively are exactly what Farmington will take advantage of. And Farmington's, with the exception of Jackson, and you take Jackson out of the equation, they were averaging 52 points a game. And I think that they don't have any problem scoring here. I think they can do what they want offensively. Sykeston just can't score enough to keep with them. Sykeston will score against them, I think, but I just think Farmington, can win a track meet, and so I like Farmington this one.
Man, I'd like to say it's going to be a closer game, but we've seen that multiple weeks of Sykeston needing to kind of re-coordinate off or defensively, and they just haven't been able to do that. I'm just going to agree with you on this one because I don't really see an avenue that Sykeston wins this game.
No, not unless something happens with that defensive team there for Sykeston that they get some things fixed. So.
And then for Friday's game on A-Corp Sports, we've got Malden at Scott City.
Yeah, I like Scott City in this one. We'll see which Scott City team shows up, but I expect them to go out there and take care of business. Malden, I want to see Malden continue to hang in these games and put some pressure on teams late and not let things kind of get away from them. I think that Scott City is obviously the favorite in this game, but I want to see Malden kind of hang in there. So we'll see what happens, but I think Underwood running the ball is just going to be too tough to stop, and of course the passing game for Scott City is pretty good as well. So I like Scott City.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Scott City's favored. I'm going to take Scott City. David, we've hit about kind of the midway point of the season. We're almost there. Do you think this is kind of matched up kind of to last year's season, anything like that?
It's looking a lot like it with our top four teams, same top four as last year. I think those four teams are going to make a run in their districts and have a chance to win districts. And then you look at Class 1. I mean, you've got Charleston, you've got Hayti, you've got Saxony in there. I mean, you've got some teams in there I think that's going to be a very competitive district. So that could be a little different, but yeah, I think it's kind of fallen in line. It's pretty similar to last year. But we still got a long way to go. We got some other teams here that I think could make some noise in the long run, and you never know about injuries.
Sure. Yeah.
Whenever you're dealing with smaller teams, especially injuries play a big part in your season. And I want all these teams to stay healthy or get healthy if they've got some injuries.
Absolutely. Do you think next year, just shot calling a little bit, do you think there's any of these teams that you're kind of expecting to kind of be on the come up?
Kennett, I like Kennett coming up next year. I think they're going to continue to build off that. I like the way that, New Madrid, I think has the ability. They've got a lot of younger guys there that they have the ability if they can kind of get things in line. And, pretty much everybody, all their big playmakers are younger. So, I think they have the ability to be better, but I do, think those are the two that kind of jump out at me. Again, East Prairie will be better next year. Have a year of experience. They get some more players out. So, but yeah, those are the ones that kind of stick out to me.
Yeah, I can totally see that. All right, David, any final thoughts?
Nope. Just let's see if we have any more video game numbers this week with some of these teams. But hopefully we have some good games. I think there's a few good games on the schedule this week, and hopefully we have some close ones.
All right. This has been the SEMO Sports Zone. We'll catch you next week. Thanks for watching.